I've got a bulletproof way for you to go into a listing appointment, come out with the listing, and exceed expectations. Most agents are going to walk into a listing. They're going to do one of two things. They're going to make a bunch of empty promises. They're going to try to do everything that the seller asks them to do. They're going to list it at a price the seller pulls out of thin air and says, I think my house is worth X. Or even worse, agents are going to go in and they're going to buy the listing. I think most of us know what buy the listing means. If you don't, it's when an agent goes in with a number he thinks is higher than everyone else. If there have been other agents here, I'm going to shoot them a higher number to make sure I walk out that door with the listing. Here's the deal. I've always felt like I'm here to sell homes, not to take listings. I don't want a listing if I'm not going to be able to sell it. It doesn't make any sense for me to do a bunch of work on something I'm not going to be able to sell. Now, I know those of you that are buying listings, and hopefully none of you on here, but the ones that are buying listings, what they're doing is then they're turning around, they're saying after a few weeks, oh, it's the market and it's this reason and it's that reason and anybody but me. It has to do with anybody and the multiple other factors. None of them are the fact that I gave you bad advice. So I think that's a bad strategy from the get-go. It is what some people do. Let me tell you how to kind of touch on some of that, but without actually doing that. So what I do when I go into a listing is I present a range of options. I say, listen, I like to run comps. I don't even necessarily do a comp report. I will do a comp report, but I like to run comps right in front of a consumer. Why not? Why not share with you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, exactly how I arrive at what we're talking about? Everybody else shows up with their reports. They can manipulate numbers, and I sell against what everyone else is doing, right? I want to stand out as doing something different than everyone else. So listen, that's great. I can show up with this cute little report, with 87 pages and pictures and graphs. But why don't I sit with you? And I have that here in the packet for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but why don't I sit with you and let's go through the motions of exactly how I arrive at what's in this report. Let me sit with you and let's go through comps. Let's look through some of your neighbors' recent sales. Let's look through some of the active sales in your neighborhood. Let's go through that together. When I know people on the high side, I've made appointments at the neighboring homes that are active on the market to go check out what our competition is. But that aside, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's sit down, let's look at the numbers together. Now, when I get there, I talk in a few different categories. Number one is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I believe the black and white is telling us is this number. What I mean by that is what your neighbors are selling, the hard truth. And what I think, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is this is the number that I think that I probably expect. Here's what I expect to happen. I expect $500,000 is probably where this is going to shake out. Now, I know that you wanted to see 530. I'm not opposed to trying some aggressive things or some optimistic, efforts here to get you the best price. I do think if you're looking here with me at these numbers, I do think 510 to 520 is pretty optimistic. And if you want to start at 530, we can do that, and certainly hope for the best. And we'll do our best to sell the number that's on the table. Another thing that I want, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and this goes such a long way with buyers and sellers, I don't want to know your bottom line. Okay, if you're willing to sell the house for $490, I don't want to know it up front. Tell you a secret, I've often already gotten that. I've often earned enough trust that they've already told me that number. But I tell them I don't want to know that number because my job is to sell the numbers that we're working with at the time. Whatever offer is on the table, I'm going to do my best to sell those numbers. So if you want to start at 530, we certainly can. So what I'm doing is I've told them I don't expect that. I expect we're going to sell here. Now, I take the focus off of that. We could talk about 510 to 520 if you want. We could talk about 530 if that's where you want to go. I don't think I wouldn't necessarily do that myself. I would probably go right in here. If you want to go a little high, I might be in this vicinity here. The black and white does support 510. I have a feeling, we talked about this thing that's not perfect over there on your home, and maybe this thing over here that's not quite what some of your neighbors have, but 510 is probably the black and white. We may end up selling at 500, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time hammering that or trying to force them into that number. I'm going to then come talk to them about their number. But what I've done is I've made plenty of room to back down later if we need to. Some people say, you know what, you're the professional. I think you're dead on. Someone tried to tell me 530 and I thought that was crazy. Some people will do business with you because they know someone else is lying to them. But the ones that are more optimistic will still often do business with you because you're willing to give it a try. Even though you've told them that's not realistic. It's not really going to be where we go, but I'll go along with you. And look, I mean, if something happens, you get a cash offer for $530 and it sells, hey, you're still the hero, right? Because you went along with them. If it doesn't, if the reality happens and it sells for $510,000 or $500,000, guys, this is what I told you in the first place. If you have to drop price to $520,000 to $510,000, well, we knew this. We've been expecting this, right? We're optimistic. We hoped for the best, but we've prepared for this. So you're not having to back up. It's not your fault. You created that expectation very early on. Hey, listen, hit subscribe so we can keep popping in to help you with some great ideas to rocket fuel your real estate business.